What's up everyone on the internet? Thank you for making this video part today. I am so excited to upload this one for you guys because this video we'll be taking a look at a movie that is the definition of testosterone and epic, while at the same time re-emphasizing the phrase total badass 300. To the initiated, whenever we hear the name Zack Snyder, we instantly think about this movie as it cemented him as a hyper-real storyteller. So this movie came out back in 2007 and is based on a graphic novel which is also based on an actual battle that took place in ancient Greece where 300 Spartans were able to hold off an army of 500,000 Persians. And I remember as a kid, I loved learning about anything ancient Greece, but I gotta tell you, I was way too young to watch this movie when it came out, so I ended up watching a History Channel documentary where I learned more about the battle itself, and I remember I was just amazed to learn about who King Leonidas was, and just by the name alone, I could already tell that King Leonidas was a total badass. Now, one of the things that I really liked about this movie is that at the very beginning, we learned about what does it mean to be a Spartan, to where we see that at a very young age, these guys were trained to do one thing: kill. And that death in the battlefield was the greatest thing a Spartan could ever accomplish. And we see how throughout the movie that these guys are essentially unstoppable killing machines. But at the same time, they're also very smart when you see how they function really well as a unit, when you see them standing next to each other with their shields lined up. And at the same time, when you see how they're just wearing just a helmet and a shield while also exposing their bare chest to the enemy, it's like them saying, hey guys, here's your target, come and get it. Now, when you look at King Leonidas, this is a leader who serves his people, and when you see him standing in the front lines next to his men, getting ready for the battle that's about to happen, you completely understand that this is a man of honor. And one little fun fact that I just learned about recently is that it is said that Leonidas was around 60 during the Battle of Thermopylae. If that's true, this man has reached a whole other level of badass. At the same time, while this movie shows you just how hardcore these guys were, you also get a little glimpse of how Spartan women were at the time, man. Let me tell you, Leonidas has a ride or die queen. One of the other things I also liked about this movie is how every frame feels like it was ripped straight out of the graphic novel. I mean, when you see Leonidas standing alongside his 300, it almost feels like a painting, which also goes in the next thing I also liked, which is the color palette. I mean, I was amazed at how they were able to recreate some of the color palettes that we see in the graphic novel, where you have different shades of yellow, gold, and beige for the daytime, while also having different shades of blue, gray, and black for night. And the music, oh my god, that soundtrack is on a whole other level. I mean, if you want to know what badass sounds like, listen to any song from that soundtrack and you feel like you can drop kick anyone. Now combine that with the color palette and the slow-mo photography, you get some kick-ass images when you see these Spartans kill every Persian on sight. Okay, you've heard me talk about the history and technical stuff about this movie. Let's talk about the Battle of Thermopylae, which is the definition of epic. The way this battle is written, when you see thousands of Persians charging across the battlefield, making the ground shake like an earthquake, before cutting to Leonidas, who's standing in front of his 300 Spartans, you know that this battle is going to be epic for sure. And I love how Zack Snyder was able to show it in all of its glory. When you see these wide angle shots at normal speeds at both sides getting ready to fight one another, before slowing things down and letting us get up close and personal as we see these Spartans kill every Persian they see. And also, fun fact, one of the other things I really like about this movie is that in history, there was a Persian messenger who came to the Spartans and warned them that our arrows will block out the sun. To which a Spartan replied, then we shall have our fight in the shade. To hear that line in the movie, oh my god, I get chills. Now, it should be noted that even though the story is based on a real battle, the movie is not afraid to go a little nuts on the more fantasy concepts, and we see that in the Persian army. Great example, the Persian immortals, who look like something straight out of a nightmare. And I also like how in history, the reason why they were called immortals is that these guys would wear black masks. And whenever you kill one of them, another would come back to take his place, feeding into the legend that these guys were unkillable. And at the same time, when you look at Xerxes, who dwarfs Leonidas, and when you see him wearing his exotic gold jewelry, you really do buy in the fact that this guy thinks he's a god king. Anyway, going back to Thermopylae, when looking at history, the Battle of Thermopylae lasted for 3 days, and we see these 3 days in the first, second, third act of the film, as we see how it is very hard to kill a Spartan, which is crazy because at the start of the movie, these guys were wearing shields and helmets that looked fairly new, but by the time we reached the end of the movie, oh my god, everyone is taking all kinds of damage from all the fighting they've been through. And while the movie showed you just how badass these guys were, at the same time, this is a story about honor and duty. Because when Leonidas learned that his lands would be invaded by Persia during a time of the Carnia, which is a festival, he was told not to go to war with Persia as it would anger the gods. But because he cannot stand by and let Sparta get invaded, he decides to defy the old ways and do what is right, which ultimately means going to war with Persia with just a band of 300 men. Also, when their one and only advantage against the Persians was taken away from them, and these guys knew that they were severely outnumbered and were going to be slaughtered the next day, instead of retreating back to Sparta, these guys decided to hold their ground and make one last stand against the Persians while letting anyone else escape and prepare for what's coming next. Which is kind of crazy because when you look at history, at the time of the battle, Greece was practicing a new form of government known as democracy. So had Leonidas and his men returned back to Sparta to protect their country, Persia would have wiped out all of Greece and that would have been democracy altogether. So I like how this movie embraces the idea of doing what is right, even if it leads to your own demise, and by the time you reach the end of the story, you feel a sense of strength and courage, while at the same time, you also feel like you could knock down anyone who comes your way. So overall, I really like this film, as this is a man's movie, where if I'm casually watching this and my dad walks by, he'll gladly sit on the couch next to me and watch the movie with me, and by the time the credits roll, he'll usually look to me and go, that movie was badass. So if you're looking to watch a movie that has epic, visceral, and surreal battles, while at the same time you learn a little bit more about Greek history, I highly recommend you watch this film. Well, that's going to do it for this video, guys. That was my overall view on 300. If you like what you saw, hit the subscribe button so you guys updates from this channel. I'll see you next time with a brand new video. Bye-bye.